Lizelle on with us as our guest speaker. So welcome, Lizelle. Thank you so much for being here. Our members are going to get a lot from this, I know. So thank you so much. And just a little bit of background. This is something that is so passionate to us. We honestly believe that people really learn from people who they deem successful, who may have worked their way up the corporate ladder in, the corporate world, in business, whatever that may be, but really to hear the raw, vulnerable stories of how that successful person overcame fears, confidence fears, public speaking, whatever it is. And everybody has to do that. And it's not something we talk about. We just assume that, oh, these people who've moved up the ladder have got something that we've not. So that's really what we're trying to get to, and really help people learn self-awareness, learn how to lead themselves first, because that naturally will then make them a better leader. So that's really our effort that we're trying to do here, and having incredible guest speakers on like yourself really helps people. So thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
So we are going to get started, and Nigel's going to go through and read your bio to start.
We're going to go through the bio, and it's a very impressive bio. So Lizelle Peterson is the Chief Financial Officer of VetStrategy Canada, holding a Chartered Accountant and Registered CPA Ontario, with more than 24 years of executive leadership experience across the pharmaceutical, healthcare and retail sector. She has led organisations through periods of significant growth, transformation and operational complexity, and is recognised for her disciplined, pragmatic approach to leadership and value creation. She has extensive experience in high-growth, multi-location environments, including consolidation and roll-up models driven by mergers, acquisitions, and organic expansion. She has held senior leadership roles at both enterprise and divisional levels, and brings a global perspective from operating businesses across 5 countries. Her leadership is focused on building scalable insight, driving finance, organizations that enable strategic execution and sustainable growth. A proven transformation leader, she has led large-scale enterprise initiatives involving financial centralization, financial sourcing, process automation, and system transformation. Lizelle has led up to 190 professionals and is known for developing high-performing leadership teams that operate as effective business partners. Her responsibilities have extended beyond finance to include procurement, compliance, legal, loss prevention, real estate, and ethics, providing an integrated enterprise-wide approach to risk management and performance oversight. As a trusted advisor to executive leadership teams and boards of directors, she has served as the chair and vice chair of risk committees and is valued for her strong governance mindset, balanced judgment, and ability to translate strategy into disciplined execution. She was a member of the financial leadership team that completed the Dentalcorp Health Services initiative public offering on the Toronto Stock Exchange in May 2021. And then just on top of all of that, when you're not doing the career stuff, outside of work, Lizelle is an accomplished endurance athlete, having completed 3 Ironman races, 7 Half Ironman races, 4 ultramarathons, and more than 10 marathons. The discipline, resilience, and mental endurance required for these pursuits reflects her leadership style. Focus on long-term value creation, continuous improvement, and performing effectively under pressure. Wow.
Just wow.
That's a lot when you say it like that.
Just the Ironman bit.
Yeah, I am a very average athlete, but I finished. That's my goal. I just got to get to the finish line. That's the goal.
Well, honestly, Lizelle, that is an incredible bio, and we're going to get stuck in. So we're going to start with the question that we ask all our guest speakers. Yeah. And even though we've touched on bits of your career there, can you really walk us through your career path, where it started off, and was it the one that you envisioned, or did it really unevolve in unexpected ways along the path?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting. I know I have a 17-year-old son who's currently trying to decide what he wants to do with the rest of his life. And I look at him and I go, when I was 17, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I knew exactly what my path was. it's not like that for everyone, right? Many people don't know what they want to do with the rest of their lives. But I grew up with a dad who was a CFO, and I really, frankly, I just liked his office. That's how I decided that I want to be a CFO one day, and I'm going to become a CPA. And that path was set, and that's the path I followed. So yeah, I find it's interesting that so many people struggle with what that path is for you. That being said, it didn't just happen naturally. There were a lot of hiccups. There were a lot of things that there were bumps in the road. But yeah, frankly, I started my career once I finished university. I started with PricewaterhouseCoopers. It was the safe option, I think, at the time, because you got to learn so much about all the different parts of business. But yeah, I was a junior. I started off right at the bottom. But I had mentors, right? From the beginning, I had someone that looked at me and said, you have talent, and how can I mentor you? So that was just that someone recognized me from day one was such a confidence booster. But that being said, I was also the first in the office, and I was the last to leave. And I was the one who asked for more work and asked for more experience. And I was never the one that, left early. So there's such a thing as hard work, right? And I don't think there's much things we can do besides work hard in certain situations. So anyway, started with Pricewaterhouse, did a bit of time with Barclays Bank. About a year, I worked on their traders floor, which was an interest of mine. I always thought maybe I'll become a trader, and I worked there for about a year. I was like, this is really not for me. This is really not something I want to do. And although I thought in my mind, this must be a really cool thing to do on a daily basis. And once I experienced it, they actually offered me a role on the trader's desk when I decided to leave. And I was just like, this is really not for me. So I went back to PricewaterhouseCoopers for 2 years. And I simply did that because I had a great boss there. He was my mentor. He still calls me to this day. Sometimes when I get a new role, he'll respond, while watching your career. He must be in his 70s now. But I went back there because I thought he was a good leader, because I knew he was going to give me the opportunities I needed, and I just didn't know what was the next step for me. In the meantime, I think my dad also kept saying, you should become a partner in an audit firm because it's such a great role for specifically females and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, very, very quickly realized that that's really not what I want to do. And then I took a role with GlaxoSmithKline as a financial manager. And I started with them just doing some of the financial management stuff. But it's such a big change going from, being the auditor where you're not the one responsible, you're telling people what they need to fix, to I am now responsible for this business and the running of this business. Very quickly got promoted, became, I think, the head of finance after a couple of years. I took over not just their pharmaceutical department, but also their consumer healthcare departments, and became the finance director, which sort of leader of that business quite quickly, about 3-4 years into my journey. And then led that business. And that was the first time in my life where I had to do things besides finance, right? So suddenly you're in a leadership role and you're expected to run the board, and you're expected to know how to do compliance, and you're expected to know how to do risk management that nobody taught you. So you quickly learn how to figure things out if I don't know how to do it. So when you speak to a leader, don't say I can't do it. That's the first thing. That's the worst thing you can do. I just say I'll do it, and then I'll go figure it out. That was always sort of my style. Anyway, so that was a great experience. I then got Walmart called me and said they're looking for a CFO for one of their divisions. That was just a great opportunity. Walmart being Walmart first, and secondly, the brand I was leading was just such a fantastic brand. It's like a Home Depot. For those of you who don't know me very well, I have only been in Canada for about 8 years. Before that, I lived in South Africa. I am South African. But anyway, I led this brand, and the first time I was able to lead multi-location sites. So 120 stores. We built them in 4 different countries. It was such a fantastic opportunity, and just a high growth business. So we not did we just grow our own stores, but we also managed to grow through greenfields in new countries. So one of my favorite roles in my entire career was that one. And then I got called by Walmart a couple of years later and said they have a role in Canada, and if I would consider moving here. So I said to my husband, "Do you want to move to Canada?" And he said, "Sure, let's move to Canada." And that was about the conversation. And I've never even been to Canada. So I literally packed my bags, my entire family, and we moved here. I think Walmart said, "Do you want to come out and look at it?" I said, "What's the point? Why would I come out and look at it? I'm coming anyway. So let's just pack our bags and let's go." And arrived here brand new, not knowing this country at all. Felt like I was starting over, really felt like I was starting my career from scratch. Coming out of a business where I was the CFO, responsible for the entire P&L, reported to the board. I landed here, and it was new. It was so different. New people, culture, how people speak, how people do things. People keep saying, "Don't be so aggressive, Lizelle. You are not in South Africa anymore." Anyway, that was a learning. So I took a role with Walmart, senior director there for about 3.5 years. Just learned such amazing things when I was there. Got to lead an e-commerce business, got to lead operations, got to understand how labor models work. Which was just fantastic. And then Dentalcorp came around. I was the senior vice president there. For 3 years, as you said, I'd helped them list in 2021 in the middle of COVID. So that was very, very stressful, but very, very rewarding, and really set me up for where I am now, where I'm the CFO of VetStrategy. We have about 375 vet clinics. We have wonderful teams across the country, and we're part of a bigger group, IVC Evidencia. So I have a lot of networks as a result of that. But my career grew really quickly from when I landed here to where I am today. And I think, so that's sort of my background. I think if you want to think about some of the things, then the bumps in the road, there were many, right? I didn't know whether I want to be on the trading floor, and I tried and I didn't like it, and I tried something else. I went back to an old job. I left the country. Felt like I started my career from scratch when I landed here. And it kind of was like that. You just don't have the credibility that you have in another country. You start from scratch. And I say that there's so many of us who have left our countries and moved here. And so many people, I think, relate to that. Well, I was a manager when I left, and now I'm a senior financial analyst because I have to start at the bottom. So it's hard. It's very hard to reinvent yourself. So that was a big bump. That was a very, very big bump. It took a lot of emotional, mental toughness to feel like I'm going back to something I did 10 years ago, but I had to do it. So you just get up in the morning and you do the work, and you work really hard. And the opportunities come. They come eventually, and they did for me. So their bumps happen, and this is how you deal with it. That's the most important part of it. And nobody's path is just linear going up. It just doesn't work that way, right? You have to put your feelers out, sometimes vertically, take on new roles without getting promoted. So everybody has bumps, and there's no person that I know in any way that's been successful or have grown very much in their career through promotions that didn't have many bumps on the road.
Yeah. I love the fact as well that you talked about the fact that you tried different things, recognized it quickly, went back, and you could kind of think of that as a bump, really, but that really is a lot of self-awareness to be brave, to actually try something, but then also be brave and put your hand up and say, actually, that's not for me. I'm going to go back to this while I figure the next step out.
Correct. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I think that was the absolute right thing for me to do at that time. And I don't regret it at all. But yes, you're right. Sometimes you can't force people to like what they do, right? You either like it or you don't, right? And no job, nobody loves all of their job. Like if you use an 80-20 rule, like 80% of what I do I really like, the other 20% I could do without. But I think that is just how it is for most people. But yeah, try things out, right? If it's not even a failure, like you might feel like you failed, it's not failure, it's just experience, right? It's just, I experienced this is not for me. Could I do it? Sure. could do it, but that's not what I want to do. So go do the thing that you really want to do. And don't see it as a failure. See it as an experience and an opportunity for growth and an opportunity to see yourself do something that you maybe didn't like and pivot to something else. I think we all pivot in our careers at some point. I mean, you guys certainly have as well.
Oh, yes, plenty of time. And I read something the other day, I think it was that Stephen Bartlett, and he put a quote on saying, failure is just a tuition fee. And
That's right.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So
that's amazing.
It's so true. And it's really lucky and really interesting that you started off your career really knowing exactly what you wanted to do, because if we kind of go back to that piece, I think that's really what stood out to me. There's not actually that many people that do start off and really know and create a career from that. And I think that's amazing. Like I didn't know, and maybe you did a little bit.
Well, my career, I kind of knew high level what the direction I wanted to go in. I just needed to hone down the actual the part of it. Like so many people try a numerous amounts of jobs, and like you said, Lizelle, like you're going to be good at some, you're going to enjoy some, you're going to get good bits from one job to take to another. But it is so rare that I've got this path. It's like, as soon as I'm 17, I know exactly where I'm going. And obviously, your father was a huge influence on that, and that's been part of your environment growing up.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. We have 3 CFOs in the family as a result. So.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was it then. It was in you from the very beginning. You were really hearing it like from being a toddler, probably. But
exactly.
If I go back to that time in the early days, and you mentioned that you had a mentor that saw something in you, and that was what really helped, but. You seem to progress up the ladder very quickly at an early age. But if you kind of think back to those times where you were building confidence and kind of going to that next step, a new role, and maybe leading people, like what was the pieces that stand out for you there, the turning points when, kind of learning about yourself there? Or was it really the help of the mentor that was the big piece of it?
Yeah, so I think there's 2 things here. I think the mentor helped me from the confidence perspective. Just that I see you here early, I see you here late, I see your work, it's good, your work's good, I'm going to give you more opportunity. And as soon as they say that, you have this little fear in your mind where you go, I don't know what more opportunity means, but I'm going to take it, and whatever it is, I'm going to figure it out. So, as I was an auditor, I was a young auditor, I remember going home at night and I had the file open. So I read everything that I had to do in the next day, so that I didn't arrive there in the morning and not know what is going to be expected of me, especially when I had sections that I'd never done before. So I would actually read the night before. And then when I walked in the morning, and looked like I knew what I was doing. I didn't necessarily know what I was doing in actual fact, but I looked like I knew what I was doing. And that just creates all this confidence around you. Look, she's already, ready with the file for this morning, right? And that was a small thing back then, but that created a lot of confidence. And then they saw that and they said, you know what, maybe you can take on this specific job. And they left me there on my own, first year in articles, to do the entire company's audit. And I just said, yep, I've got it, no worries. And I walked in and I looked at it and I went, I don't know what I'm doing. And then I very quickly called up one of my 3rd-year friends and I said, buddy, I'm going to need some help, right? I'm going to call you every 2 hours or so, just guide me through what the next thing is. And he helped me, right? So he was more a friend than a mentor, but I knew I could ask for help. And it was better for me to say that I've got this and I can figure this out as I go, and then ask for help along the way, than to tell my boss that I don't know how to do this, right? So I think sometimes there's an old saying, you fake it till you make it. I think that's really true. And I did that so many times in my career, right? Where I just said, I really didn't know what to do, but I'll figure it out. And I did, right? And if I didn't, I called someone up. There's so many people that you can lean on when you need to. And even in the CFO role today, I promise you guys, I don't always know what I'm doing, right? Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I have a problem and I have to work through a problem. And, the higher you go in your career, the more problems you deal with, right? So the more solutioning you have to do. I always say nothing is on my table unless it's a problem, right? So how do you problem solve something that you don't always have the answer for, right? Sometimes it's a bit of research, sometimes it's call someone, sometimes it's, lean on your team and say, guys, does anybody have an answer for this one? And sometimes it's calling up the family members. I don't know how to do this. Like I'll often phone my sister and say, I don't really know how to do this. Do you have a solution? And then she'll say, maybe like this, or try it like this. Or you go to your fellow peers on the leadership team, and that's such an important relationship. Being able to go through the chief people officer or the chief information officer and say, I don't really know how to do this. Can we figure this out quickly together? So ask for help, but I don't believe in ever turning anything down when there's an opportunity just because you feel like you don't know how to do it yet. Because you don't know how to do it yet. You will know how to do it once you're done, and that's such a big positive. You feel so good about yourself. Those are the moments that build more confidence in you in your career.
That's amazing. That's amazing advice. And I think just kind of answering everything with, yes, I've got it. But in your mind saying, and I'll go figure it out after, because I've done it as well, saying, I don't think I can do this, because the emotion comes out beforehand. Yes. And so it's kind of just that learning to recognize that.
Yeah, that's right. You kind of touched on that a second ago, Lizelle, there, but what we talk about in leadership in life, a lot of it is about kind of self-awareness and noticing how you think, how you react to certain situations. Do you have any of your kind of fears or self-doubt, any emotional challenges that show up, whether it be confidence, public speaking, imposter syndrome, any of these kind of things?
Yeah, I think one big thing for me is I don't like conflict. I really don't. I stay away from it. I try and make sure that people like each other. And I had to very quickly learn. Even when I was the first time I was in a leadership role, I remember, and I was young. I was in my 20s, and I was leading people who were much older than me, right? So, and they would have like drama in the office, right? And I thought it was my job to try and solve it. Like they would come to me with all this drama. And eventually I was just like, oh my God, that's not your job. Don't do that, right? So I ended up learning from that very quickly, because I don't like conflict. And the thing that I should have done is I should have just let them figure it out. So conflict is something I shy away from very much. I've learned, however, as you go through roles and you get to more senior roles, conflict's inevitable. It has to be there. It has to happen. You have to put your hand up and say, I don't agree with this, even though you know that it might be an unpopular view. That is what makes you a successful leader, is that you are not afraid to put your hand up and say, guys, this is not a good idea. I know we might have to do this, and this is going to create conflict for me with someone, whether it's my boss or whether it's someone else. You can't shy away from it. So that's the one thing about myself I know, and I had to work on it really, really hard, because it's the one thing that I knew I couldn't not have. So I have to be able to deal with conflict, because it makes me so emotional inside. I don't like it, but I had to learn to do it. The other thing about me is I like the big picture, and I don't like detail. So I'm very aware that that's my style. And so when I employ people around me, I will always employ someone who likes detail, because I know I don't. So with that, I compensate with team members on my weak side, so that I can make sure that the team is successful. So I think those are probably the biggest things that I would say. The other thing I've learned from a self-awareness perspective is I'm very calm. People see me as very calm, although I'm dying inside sometimes. I come across as very calm and collected, and I'm very solution oriented. But then somehow there needs to be an outlet somewhere, right? Because and that can't be I'm coming home to my husband and he's the outlet. That's a very bad idea. So you figure out what that outlet is. For me, it's running. That's why I do endurance races, and that's why I do Ironman, because that's my outlet. That's my relaxation. That's my ground myself back to who I am, and just spending some time in my own head without having solved the world's problems. So find your outlet, right? That's something that I think many people forget to do, or have never found for themselves.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. That's amazing.
And
something just dawned on me when you going back when you said the fake it till you make it. We had a guest last week, And I loved how he phrased it. He said, confidence is borrowed.
That's
and
right.
you create enough evidence yourself. And I'm like, oh, that has really resonated with me, that. So, just another perspective. Sorry,
Yeah.
another question.
No.
Yeah. So just going on to as next section, the reason we created Leadership in Life is because we truly believe that people learn from other people's stories.
Yes.
And the one thing that I noticed, and it's kind of going back to Walmart when, like if people don't know, Lizelle, I actually reported to you for a while and you're an incredible leader. But only certain people would get access to mentors unless they were very lucky and, somebody saw something shine in them and they really kind of like dived in and helped them. So not a lot of people actually get to hear the raw stories of people, and they don't actually get to learn how to ask the questions while being respectful to that person.
That's right.
And sometimes it's very difficult also for somebody like the person that they're wanting to ask questions. It's difficult for that person to be vulnerable to one person who they might. That's
right.
So that's really a lot of the work that we're trying to do here. And that being said, was there moments that kind of highlight to you where you observed somebody and really they were like either an inspiring example or more of a negative example, but it was really something that sticks in your mind, that was a big self-awareness learning for you that helped you on your path or move from a different path?
Yeah, I think there's something I always used to tell my teams, if like you should ask for mentorship, right? If a company's not offering it, there's many companies that don't offer it. I actually find it's interesting because I was in South Africa for such a long time, and mentorship and coaching was such a big part of the roles that I did there. I find the culture here is just so different that it's just not something people ask for. I remember in my previous many roles, I had people come to me and say, can you mentor me once every 4 weeks? I have some questions, right? And I think if you understand the relationship between a mentor and the person asking for help, it's not about me giving advice. Sometimes it is say, try this, think about this, maybe you can try this one. For me, that's less of what that relationship is. It's more about self-awareness for yourself. When I'm speaking to someone else about me, right, I think you get those aha moments for yourself as you are able to talk to a mentor and say, these are the things I'm struggling with, and they might just help you understand certain things. But a mentor doesn't have all the answers, right? They certainly don't know how your life is or your life or your ideals are, but they are there to listen, and they can tell you from their own experiences what happened. So I find many people here don't ask for mentorship. So I think that's the first thing. You should ask. You should actually ask if it's something that you feel is important for you. Mentorship I think is really important, but I think self-awareness about yourself and figuring out that for yourself is even more important. Nobody can tell you who you are. We don't even display everything of who we are on a daily basis to everybody, especially not at work, right? So it really is important that you figure out who you are first. You said that earlier as well. You can't lead people unless you know who you are. In fact, I don't think you can be in marriage unless you know who you are, right? I truly believe that. But it's I think successful marriages are with people who know who they are. And they can live with themselves just the way they are. It's the same in self-awareness and being in the world. And especially in a career, is knowing your boundaries, knowing how you lead, how you engage people, and what your strengths and weaknesses are. You've got to figure that out for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Was there ever a mentor back in your time that told you something that was a bit of a shock to you, that you were like,
yes,
I don't do that, or
God,
suck it in?
You know what? It wasn't even a mentor. Like, I was a young manager, and it was actually one of my staff, right? And I did it so wrong. There was something came up. There was an issue. And I walked into the meeting. I asked for a one-on-one with this person. I actually thought she did something wrong, and there were this complaint as a result. And I walked into that meeting, guns blazing, like so inexperienced. Like, it's today, I can't even imagine that I would do that. But I walked in there and I was like, how can this happen? I see that this and this and this happened, and blah, 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 blah. And she started crying. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I had to track back, and she said, you know me better than this. And it was such an aha moment for me, although it didn't come from a mentor, but it came from someone on my team, that this is the worst way to actually have this conversation. And that was 20 years ago. It's still in my mind. Every time I walk into one of these meetings, I remember that meeting, and I remember not to do that. And I remember that the best way to go into that situation is to first listen, say, and don't go in there guns blazing. There's always two sides to a story. And even though something might have gone wrong, there's always a better way to solve it. Like, so if my teams come to me today with this went wrong, my first reaction is not, how dare you? How could you have done that? Blah, 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 blah. It's always, okay, how do we solve it? I get it, but now how do we fix it? So, that was for me, not even from a mentor, but from just a staff member, that was one of the biggest learnings I could ever, from a self-awareness and from a career perspective, that was the best learning I could ever have had. And thank goodness for her telling me you should be better than this. Like, oh my gosh, she told me that. I know as her boss.
That's amazing.
It is.
Because haven't you done that?
I've done it so many times. And one of the things you were mentioning then, where this person coming to the office, certainly in my early days, I always made the mistake of when to have that conversation. So I'm a distribution background.
Yes.
And we're always, do I do it on the shop floor? Because it seems a bit less formal.
Yes.
Or do I take them into the office? And then everybody's like, well, what's all this?
What's happening to this guy?
So I used to struggle with like, well, how do I? And in my head, I'm playing, is it that severe? Is it not that severe? Is it an office? Is it a shop floor? And I'm thinking, I've not even had the conversation yet. And I'm still trying to decide where to have it. So
exactly.
For me,
exactly.
The biggest kind of hurdles.
That's a really good lesson and reminder for people.
Yep.
Yeah. Amazing.
When you look back over your journey, which habits or mindset or thinking has been the biggest long-term impact on your success? So anything that was intentionally built, or did it just evolve naturally?
I think I know. I'll kind of like start by saying I have picked up on this, that I'll figure it out.
Yeah, there seems to be a pattern
alone,
that I will get through it. But is there anything as any other kind of habit or mindset?
Yeah, I think so. It's definitely being, okay. So one habit that I definitely have is deep breathing. I don't know. Sometimes people ask me, why do you do that? It sounds like you're sighing. Well, no, I'm not sighing. When I breathe, it's something I was taught. I did this amazing leadership. It was like a 6-week program. It was incredible. I wish everybody in the world could go through such a program where you can just learn about yourself and etc. But the company paid for it. It was absolutely fantastic. And much of what I know about myself today is a result of that. But number one is just breathe. When if I take a deep breath in, it's probably because I'm trying to figure out how to do something, or because I'm about to go into a meeting or a situation where there could be conflict. So that's a good tactic to have. It's just breathe through your nose and let it out through your mouth, and you immediately feel better. So tactics work. Get enough sleep. That works. Be positive. Like, it's such a cliche, but you can't go into things in a negative mindset. And then mental toughness. Mental toughness is something you learn over time. I think one of the questions that I read before, is sort of what stories about lessons learned about yourself. And it's not a work example, but when I was a couple of 5-6 years ago, I wanted to do my first Ironman, and I had worked so hard. I did every training session. I didn't miss anything. I ate right. I did everything I was supposed to do. And we woke up that morning, and it was horrible weather, and it was the ocean was like this, and there was waves everywhere. I'm a horrible swimmer, and I'm so scared. Because I'm like crying before the race even started. I haven't even gotten in the water yet. Anyway, and it was a 2-loop swim. I remember it so well. And I did the first loop, by the grace of God, I got through it. And I had to walk out on the beach, and I sat on that beach and I looked at the ocean and I was like, there's no way I'm going back in there. There's just no way. I'm not going back in there. I'm going to drown. I'm going to die today. And I took my tag off and I gave it to the organizer and I walked off the beach. And I felt like such a failure. I felt like I failed so badly that day. And anyway, my husband was there. We finished the race. Everybody's great. It was a very nice day for everybody else. And that night I said to my friend to finish, I said, I'm just not made for this. Like, I can't do this. And he said, that is crap. We are entering you in a new race today. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. I said, you got 3 days to find a race and we're going to go and do it. And I had these friends come with me. And then the next year I went and did California and I finished. And then I did another one and I did another one and I did another one. So, it's that's such, your brain can make you do things or make you not do things, right? So it was all in my head, right? I think the Ironmans I did after, I did less training, I did less of the nutrition, but it was all in my mind. So our minds are so powerful. And if you keep telling yourself, I can't do something, or I'm not ready for this, you won't be ready. You just won't be. That's just where that will be the truth. It will be reality. So mental toughness is something that I don't know how I explain to you how you train it, but that is something you have to be resilient.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point, because I was reading something the other day about just in anyone's general day, that 85% on average of everything that they take in social media is based on negativity.
Yes, that's right.
To your point there, if we can just shift that and make it 85% positivity, what we could achieve.
Yes, exactly.
Not doing Ironman and stuff like that, but just in a day-to-day, going through a day-to-day with 85% positive thought, and we achieve some amazing things if we didn't let this negativity take over.
Yeah. Correct. And I think when the most negativity comes in is when people are overwhelmed, right? And that's so tough, especially when you're a leader and you're feeling overwhelmed and you're feeling like I can't do this day. And that rubs off on your team. People know that you are overwhelmed. They can hear it, they can feel it. It's the energy you give off, and that affects everybody around you. So, figuring out what you do when you're overwhelmed, just to center yourself a little bit. And I make a list. When I feel overwhelmed, I'm like, okay, I have 5 things to do. I might not be able to do them all today, but I'm going to make a list and I'm going to tick them off. As I've ticked the first one, I feel better already. Okay, there's not that many to go. And it's just a symbolic way to just center your brain that you don't have 5 things running through it, but you got a list and you go down the list. I think that's really important for leaders to not show their teams how they feel and feel overwhelmed. Although vulnerability is not a problem, it's absolutely something you should be able to do in a one-on-one situation. But we have to look after our teams as well. And I find when people are overwhelmed, it's when the negativity happens.
Yeah,
that is
100%.
That is, and exactly what I do, because I struggle with getting overwhelmed, and I have to recognize it. And now we work together. Nige notices it now and again.
We just shut everything down and go for a walk.
Yeah, we go for a walk.
We go walk for 40 minutes and come back, and everything just seems to make a whole.
That's perfect.
Come on, leave it. It's time for a walk, and
that's perfect.
Yeah, but the same with the list as well. Like I write it down, figure out, okay, it's not that bad. What can I realistically get through? What's priority? What doesn't matter too much? There's no need to pile it all on. But what you talked about then, and bringing that feeling of that overwhelming onto your team, leads really perfect onto my next question and just the next section, where we really want to talk about a little bit more, diving into your experience to kind of finish off on influencing and leading others. So were there any other moments where you realized that you were showing up internally, there was something, whatever was going on, and it was directly affecting the people around you, and there was a point where that was a moment where you realized that you needed to change that?
I think one of the, just as more recently, just the organization I'm part of right now is they move so fast, and this just demands are so high that I had to learn how to potentially manage things for my team. because it's just because they get overwhelmed, and I know I'm overwhelmed. I don't tell anybody I'm overwhelmed, but I know I'm overwhelmed, so I know they are as well. So I have been very sort of conscious around trying to help them prioritize. So I will go even with senior people at the moment, just because it's so busy, and there's so many expectations. The company is just going places, and anyway, they have great big plans, and then the board has a lot that they want to know. It's just kind of to say, these are the things we're going to do, and this thing that we were going to do today, we're moving it to next week. And often what has to happen though is I have to manage senior leadership, or see more senior people than me, because I've made a decision that potentially means that a meeting that I was supposed to prepare for next week has to be moved. And being able to do that and say, this is not going to happen, guys. My team is so overwhelmed with these 3 things right now, and we have to prioritize these 3 things. Are you guys okay if I move this slightly less important thing, still important, but let me move it out by a couple of days, just to give them some breathing room, to help. Doesn't always work. I try. It doesn't always work. Sometimes I'm told, nope, that has to happen, and then we keep going. But you have to try. And I do think just trying to ground them as well around what is the most important thing, I think is very key when you're running so fast towards certain goals in an organization. And I don't find many senior leaders do that. I find they often just expect that people will keep going till they fall over. I try to stay really in touch with what the teams are doing. And even when I was reporting into CFOs, I often would say, guys, we got to just slow some things down, because they'll keep going, right? And they'll keep pushing until people are really done. So I think you have to be in tune with your team and just where they are at as well.
Yeah, and I can say from experience that you achieved that, and I definitely think that was a massive strength, and why you stood out to me as a brilliant leader. So thank you.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. So final thoughts, really. I think I'll do the final question. Question. So if for any of our members that might feel capable, but they might be holding back from fear, any kind of uncertainty that they've got, any self-doubt in whatever level and whatever situation that they're in right now, what is one reminder that you would give them, or one perspective that you wish you would have heard earlier in your journey, or realized earlier in your journey?
Yeah, I guess I'd say nothing is actually that serious, right? In finance, it's never the end of the world, right? I'm not a doctor. I hope no doctors are on the call. I don't have any medical people in my team either. But if someone's not going to die as some of the decisions I've made, right? So sometimes we fail, and failure is actually okay. As long as you learn from it, right? Being able to, every day I see things that are wrong. Every single day, we cannot be perfect. Don't try to be perfect. Try and work really hard, put in the real effort, work on yourself. But none of us are perfect. And if you've made a mistake, the best thing to do is just put up your hand and say, I think I've made a mistake here. Can we pivot really quickly and fix my mistake? And just fix it. I think when I was younger, I thought everything had to be so perfect, or I'm never going to make it. And it's just not true, right? I think the people who make it into more senior roles are the ones who lead really well. They're the ones who look after their people. I've got so many people that I used to work with that followed me to my next role. That's what you want. You want to lead through people. You want to make them feel good about themselves. I'm here to help you grow your career. I'm not here to punish you if you did something wrong. That's really not my role, but I'm here to help. So, as far as I'm concerned, knowing when you failed, it's okay. I can get up and move on and be better as a result of that. That would be my message to the people here. If I'd known that earlier on in my life, I might have made some different choices. Not that I'm unhappy with my choices; they were good choices. But know that failure is not the end of the world.
Wow, that's an incredible message.
It's a great point to finish on, because it's so many people's fears. They just think, and of course, it's all down to your environment and where you work, and do you operate in a psychologically safe environment that you can highlight mistakes. But it is so important if you make a mistake in the environment that don't beat yourself up about it. There's going to be somewhere along the line someone's going to want to beat you up about it, but don't beat yourself up about it.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. And you know what? Someone's going to shout and scream. Sure, it might happen. But as long as you come with a solution, I think come rather own your issue and show that you are finding that I find that when someone comes to me, I made this mistake, this is how we can do it better, and this is how I've already implemented the new process, that I value that a lot more than someone that tries to hide it or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there were just a million amazing tips here, and that was an incredible interview, Lizelle. Thank you so
My
much.
pleasure. Loved it. Thank you so much.
This is going to be so helpful to our members. So thank you so much. And
100%.
I'm going to stop the recording now.